Another day of broader market outperformance as Nifty and Sensex see some profit booking at record high levels. PSU stocks fly high. All sectors except FMCG and real estate end in the green. The race for Federal Bank heats up. Sources tell CNBC TV 18 that former Kotak Mahindra Bank Deputy Managing Director KVS Manian and two Federal Bank Executive Directors are likely on the CEO candidate list submitted to the Reserve Bank of India. The US Federal Reserve is widely expected to keep its benchmark interest rate steady when it announces a policy decision later tonight. Chair Powell's speech is expected to shed light on the potential rate cut timeline. Morgan Stanley's Rhythm Desai tells CNBC TV 18 on the sidelines of the MS conference that emerging markets are not receiving foreign funds due to the China factor. He cites premium valuations in India as a deterrent but expects FPI flows to pick up in the second half of this year. Hello and welcome to a fresh new edition of Markets Forward, your go-to program where we aim to get you everything you need and to prepare you for the day in front of us. Today, of course, was a day where the market actually once again consolidated. Just to quickly take you through some of the things which happened today, the Nifty intraday will tell you the story. Like yesterday, at 3 p.m., there was a sell-off which ensued. But unlike yesterday, the market actually managed to close in the green. So sell-off, late sell-off, but a higher close, unlike a negative close that we had for the Nifty yesterday. Small caps and mid caps did well. So the broader market was resilient, 1%, 1.25% higher in that part of the market. And you also had, PSUs as a pack, which did very, very well. You look at the CPSE index, which was up about 1.6%. PSU banks, with no help from the private sector banks, PSUs and the Bank Nifty were higher as well. FMCG and real estate were the only two areas which actually ended lower, and that was a marginal cut that we saw. For the Nifty, I think support levels are important, but they've not been coming into the play over the last couple of days. On the higher side, I think what matters, of course, is for the Nifty to have a decisive close above the previous high. That number is about less than 100 points away. 23,411 is that number. And beyond that, you're basically set for a fresh up move. So that's the overall picture. The important one, which the market also, of course, has its eye on, is the FOMC, the Fed meeting later today. And typically, we do have a reaction. Risks are skewed to the downside. The fact that Fed chair will sound like the previous two meetings, despite the hot jobs data. He will say, let's look through this. And the first action from the Fed is going to be a cut, maybe not in July, maybe in September, maybe later. But the eye has been of easing and not of firming or staying here for very long. So I think we'll perhaps see a reaction on the dollar. We perhaps will see a reaction on the yields and equities as well when we come back tomorrow morning. So that's the market action. Here's a quick lineup of what we have in store for you over the next 20 minutes. We start, of course, with the top movers and shakers. Hormuz is standing by with that. I'll go to him in just a bit. Shares of Sun TV gained in the back of Axis Capital's brokerage note. Stock was up 3.5%. Federal Bank was also one of the gainers. The race for the bank's MD and CEO position is heating up. We get you some exclusive details in just a bit. And last but not the least, we delve into some of the key market events to watch out for when we come back tomorrow. But Hormuz is here with what went up, what went down, and what were the big movers. So Hormuz, over to you.
Yeah, continuing with a familiar script as has been over the last couple of days as well. This week, you start higher, move higher, but then you see a sell-off over the last few minutes and then you end up in that same range. That's what happened to the market today as well, as you had mentioned. But PSU banks continue to do well, recovering from the losses that they made last Tuesday. Almost all constituents of the index doing well. Central Bank, Bank of Baroda, UCO Bank, Bank of Maharashtra, all of them seeing gains of anywhere between 2 to 4%. Housing finance companies were up yesterday. They continued that trend today as well. LIC Housing as well, some positive brokerage commentary coming in there. Aptus Value, Home First Finance, Aadhar and Canfin Homes also doing very well in today's trading session. The overall non-banking PSUs also continued to see a recovery today. Concor was up almost 5%, got a Morgan Stanley note on it. Power Grid, Coal India, GAIL, NMDC, Coal India and Power Grid among the top gainers on the Nifty today as well. So the PSU basket continuing its recovery as well. The media stocks, the Nifty Media Index was the top gainer, sectoral gainer in today's trading session. You can Dish TV up 12%, in today's session. Sun TV, Hathway, Nazara, PVR, all of them seeing gains of 1.5 to 3.5%. And lastly, I'd like to highlight Paytm. And it was last week that its price band was revised higher from 5% to 10%. And since then, that stock has been on an upward journey. It's gained in 3 out of the 4 trading sessions since then, and it's up 18% during those 4 trading sessions. Back to you.
All right, that's a comprehensive wrap as always. Thanks very much, Hormuz, for that. Well, on our show today is Mayuresh, Joshi of William O'Neill and Nagaraj, Shetti of HDFC Securities. Gentlemen, good afternoon. Good to have both of you here. Nagaraj, to you first. Just price action, momentum continues to be strong. But what does one do now? Good to buy even here. Are you expecting a fresh leg higher after what we've already seen over the last few days?
Hi, good afternoon, Prashant. Nifty has been facing strong resistance around 23,400 to 23,500 levels. We have seen some stellar up move post-election results. After that, market has shifted into a narrowing moment. In the last few sessions, we have seen market is facing resistance from here, its new all-time highs. These are all indicating that there is a strong resistance of around 23,400 to 500 in terms of a Fibonacci extension and opening downside gap near around on the 4th June, and also a trend line which is connected recent rising highs. So I'm expecting these patterns normally tend to dip the market. I'm expecting one downward correction in the market around 22,800, 23,000 is going to be the support. From there, I'm expecting upside bounce. This is going to be any anticipation of downward correction is going to be a buy and dip supposed to be for the Nifty for near term.
Okay. Buy and dips continues. You'd agree with that, Mayuresh? A quick word on the market?
Yeah, Prashant, I think the momentum continues to remain strong. I think it has been ably backed by very strong domestic liquidity. And to that extent, the market momentum can very well continue. We're in a confirmed uptrend, as we see in our markets with India lens. And therefore, the next few days, the 100-day agenda and what really transpires in the budget will be the next defining move for the market on the way up. So I think if there are no negative surprises in the budget itself, I think flows as well as market momentum can very well continue.
Got that. Let's get into some of these stocks that Hormuz was talking about, right? Sun TV was a mover today. Came off the highs, but still was up about 3.5%. And now Vamakshi standing by. And there's this note from Axis Capital where they're kind of sort of putting together this thesis. They've raised their price target for Sun TV. Vamakshi, tell us more.
Well, absolutely, that's right. Axis Capital has come out with a report on Sun TV. They've retained their ad rating, but they've gone ahead and raised their target price from 600 to 810 rupees per share. They say that the company reported muted ad growth of 2% CAGR over FY22 to FY24, but this is much better as compared to its peers, which actually reported a nearly 4% decline. Despite high competitive intensity, they were able to maintain their market share in Tamil, but they've lost significant market share in Telugu as well as Kannada. The market share in some of the newer markets of Bangla and Marathi also remains low at 2 to 3%. Nevertheless, they're trying to foray into the Hindi market, but the scale up in content investments is expected to be gradual. The sport business has also seen healthy EBITDA, and this is expected to sustain going forward. In fact, they're expecting better performance from the sports business to come through in FY25. Valuations are also looking quite inexpensive, and on the back of that, we have Axis Capital raising its target price on Sun TV from 600 rupees per share to 810 per share.
Right. Nagaraj, on Sun TV, how are the charts looking?
Chart is looking positive. We have seen some good performance in the Sun TV over the last couple of weeks. I think some more upside is left around 800 to 820 is going to be the strong resistance for the stock, and I'm expecting this current up move could move towards those resistance in the near term.
What are you, by the way, pushing to your clients, Nagaraj, in terms of sort of trades, positional or otherwise?
Yeah, I have a PSU and PSCs are still looking positive. One stock is that RailTel. Chartically, RailTel is looking moving in a range bound action. After a dip, it has again moved up from the lower levels. Currently placed at the upside breakout point around 430, 435 levels. Once it moves above 435 levels, then the real up move is going to occur in these stocks. So we are expecting some more upside, and the next forward resistance to be watched is around 455 to 460 in the near term.
I think it's still about, 10% away, 10-12% away from its highs, which was about 491, 490 or so. RailTel, got that. Coming back to you, both of you in just a bit, but let's also address one more story, right? I mean, Jaiprakash Associates. It's interesting. It's not just, of course, about JP Associates. It was up 5% today after having fallen about from 15 rupees to 10 rupees. But of course, it's also about banks. This case has been going on for years, and there is something latest, something new which has happened. There is an offer for a one-time settlement from banks, which the NCLT will consider on the 24th of this particular month. Ritu is here with details. Ritu.
Well, the NCLAT has refused to stay insolvency proceedings against Jaiprakash Associates, but it has issued a notice to ICICI Bank saying that the bank may consider a one-time settlement proposal which has been submitted by the company. Now remember, last week the suspended board of JP Associates had moved NCLAT challenging NCLT's June 3rd order which had directed the initiation of insolvency proceedings against the company, and this suspended board, which is represented by former director Sunil Kumar Sharma, had sought a stay on the NCLT proceedings, arguing that they will put the infrastructure projects of the company into jeopardy, and said that if insolvency proceedings were not initiated, the company could have resolved its debt via this one-time settlement offer that has been in the works. The council stated that this involves splitting the entire debt into 3 segments, repaying part of it via sale of plants and restructuring the other debt. Now keep in mind, the lenders had not accepted this debt, and instead they were considering a sale to the National Asset Reconstruction Company, but of course the company was eventually referred to the NCLT. So while refusing to stay the NCLT order, the NCLAT has directed banks to consider the settlement and will next hear the matter on the 24th of June. Now remember, JP Associates has an outstanding debt of nearly 30,000 crores to 22 lenders led by ICICI Bank, SBI and others.
All right, we'll see what happens. Can banks all come together now and agree on something? I don't know. But Mayuresh, I mean, any implications for banks or otherwise? I mean, there is also the Dalmia Bharat asset, right, which is tied to the hip with this case.
Yeah. Oh, yes. And I think a lot of provisioning has already been done, Prashant. So I think not too much of a significant change in terms of bank balance sheet. So let's see what probably comes out of this one.
Yeah, and I don't think there's any way you can take a bet on JP itself, although it's listed, because it's just you don't know. Well, the other stock on the radar is Federal Bank. The stock has rallied 3% today, and we learned from sources that the bank has shortlisted 3 candidates for the post of the managing director and CEO. The names have been sent to the Reserve Bank of India for a final approval. Abhishek is here with the details. Abhishek.
Well, sources tell CNBC TV18 that 3 names have been submitted to RBI for approval. Remember that in Feb 2024, we had reported that, one of the candidate for the post of MD and CEO would have been KVS Manian. And in terms of what I have picked up from my sources, again, KVS Manian, ex-deputy MD, Kotak Mahindra Bank, is likely the external candidate whose name has been sent by Federal Bank to RBI. The other 2 internal candidates are Shalini Warrior as well as Harsh Dugar, both executive directors at the bank. Now, CNBC TV18 had reported in Feb that KVS Manian could be in the race for the post of MD and CEO at Federal Bank. Now, we have written to Federal Bank. They are yet to respond to our query. Back to you.
Okay, Abhishek, thanks very much for that. Mayuresh, for Federal Bank, do you see once this is, the name, of course, has been around for a while, but of course, it's up to the RBI to decide, right? It's been long a re-rating candidate, but it's for years now. Any thoughts?
Oh, you're absolutely right. And I think, again, numbers have been pretty decent for the entire part of FY24. So on an annualized basis, GNPAs, NPAs have come off. It is at 2.13 GNPAs, NPAs at 0.6. Credit costs are significantly lower for FY24. I think they stand at 0.22 or 0.23 compared to 0.4, 0.42 a year ago. The tier 1 ratio is at 14.61. Provisioning is at 71%. The slippage rate, both for retail, wholesale, has come off. The new age businesses, credit card, personal finance, including gold loans, is expected to ramp up significantly as well. So yeah, this has always been an overhang of sorts. But I think once clarity probably emerges, there is significant amount of value that can still get unlocked, both in terms of numbers as well as a valuation perspective as well. Just trades around 1.2 times price to adjusted book at FY25. Decent ROEs around 14%, ROEs 1.3. So you can't ask for more. So my sense is that once the overhang is probably done with, this is one good bank to probably look at. It also satisfies most of our cancel parameters.
You know, housing finance is the other area, Mayuresh, which has been doing well, right? LIC Housing today, PNB Housing has done 10-15% pretty quickly post-elections. Home First, Aptors, I mean, these are all beaten down names. Morgan, I was reading a note from Morgan with regards to what we are hearing from the government in terms of the housing scheme. They're saying it shouldn't make too much difference for earnings per se. It's sentiment-wise positive. Actually, we spoke with India Shelter this morning, one of the listed companies, and they said that the sort of the scheme in its current shape could add about between 10 and 12% to loan growth. That's the delta. Do you like anything? Would you like to own anything in this space?
Completely concur on that one. And generally, Prashant, I think the expectations in terms of advances growth being in that range of 10 to 12%, on the higher scale 12 to 14%, might be a base case scenario for most housing finance companies. Now, we are still in the midst of the housing or real estate cycle per se. And therefore, at some point of time, as the rate cut cycle begins, even in the Indian context, a lot of the better rated housing finance companies, stocks like LIC Housing, which is something that we've kept on our watch list and radar, which we believe can really do well going forward as well, can benefit significantly in terms of recoupment of NIMs and spreads, reasonable amount of advances growth. And because their large part of their portfolio is retail focused, I think the asset quality pressure should not probably be very, very evident going forward as well. The stocks have moved up in the last few days and weeks, but we still believe that is sufficient amount of juice still left. So pick and choose. I think LIC Housing is something that we like at markets.
You know, the other one which had a big move today is Max Health, was up 9% today, and it was part of Nimesh's D Street chatter as well, looking at an acquisition. That's all that we know, but it was buzzing. Now, for hospitals, acquisitions, adding capacity is important. That's how they grow. But through an acquisition, we'll see. Max, of course, has done many acquisitions over the last few years. On charts, it's coming back to prior highs. Nagaraj, any thoughts? Max Healthcare? Okay, I think we lost Nagaraj there. Mayuresh, you want to any thoughts on this one, Max?
No, I think generally the space, Prashant, should do well. Again, I think the expansions that they've probably planned, and they've got sufficient space to do that, both in their hospitals in Delhi and a little bit of space that they probably got in Parla West, where they're planning to expand their overall bed size. I think that should be incrementally positive. But you're absolutely right. I think a lot of hospitals, including Apollo and the larger ones as well, have embarked upon the growth story in terms of acquiring new hospitals and even managing a few of the hospitals, thereby creating an asset-light model onto their balance sheets. Not too much of capex gets put in significantly upfront, so they save a lot in terms of both cash flows as well as impending debt that comes onto their books. And at the same time, I think all the triggers that we speak about, medical tourism, expectations of average revenue per operating bed, expected to inch higher as lifestyle diseases keep on coming up in India, and more surgeries and more innovative surgeries coming through should augur well. So yeah, I think the space looks good. Max, Apollo, probably well placed.
All right. Well, Mayuresh, we'll leave it there. Good conversation as always. Thanks for staying back. Appreciate your time here on CNBC TV 18. So that's a whole lot bit about individual stocks which really did well and some of the reasons behind it. We'll take a quick commercial break here. On the other side, we tell you what markets will watch out for in terms of events which are lined up. Stay tuned. Okay, welcome back. We had Rhythm Desai, the Managing Director and Chief Equity Strategist at Morgan Stanley India. He spoke to us from the sidelines of the conference which kicks off here in Mumbai. And the question to him was simple. When will FIIs come back? Listen to what he had to say.
EM as an asset class, especially because of China, is on the back foot. So it's actually the least preferred equity market in our global pecking order. And I think that's also reflected in the flows. So if EM as a whole is not receiving inflow, it is hard for India to receive inflow. When we do the calculations, we find out that fund managers with GEMS mandate, global emerging market mandates, are slightly underweight India. So ideally they should have been overweight because India is persistently a big outperformer in an EM context. But obviously, they have been worried about valuations and therefore they've been waiting for the market to correct. And the market is not obliging, so they remain underweight. India's weight in EM has gone up significantly in the last 3 years. So, we were at around 8% pre-COVID, we're now 17%. We have domestic inflows which just keep rising. Every morning, domestic mutual funds have to buy about $150 million of stock. In the market, there are only two cohorts. There are the domestic investors and then there are the foreign investors. You can't get a trade unless both, if both are buying. SIP numbers have withstood a fair number of events over the last few years. I think that at some point in time, it's quite possible that the limit on provident funds and NPS, which is currently pegged at 15% of incremental flows into equities, that could be raised to 25. The last 9 years have been very sweet for them.
Okay, well, Rhythm making the point, a lot of domestic money in the hands of mutual fund managers, got to deploy that every day. Explains some of the buoyant markets we've had for some time now. Well, from market opinion to some corporate voices. So we had the management of TVS Supply Chain Solutions with us earlier today. They've signed a 5-year contract with Germany's Daimler. And the company's managing director, Ravi Vishwanathan, said that the deal value is not revealed due to confidentiality. Revenue generated will be distributed evenly over a period of 5 years. They said that the value of the deal was already included in their 4,000 crore rupee order pipeline, but they could be upsizing to the overall deal value, although they didn't disclose what that value really is. Manappuram Finance was also a management which was with us. The company expects to launch the Asirvad MFI IPO in the next 2 to 3 months. They anticipate gold loan growth for them to be between 10 and 12% for FY25 and expect the strong momentum in non-gold portfolio to continue as well. However, they added that net interest margins can decline slightly from the fourth quarter levels. Okay, well, before we wrap up, as always, let's get you the key market events to watch out for. Sonal is standing by with that list. Sonal.
Thank you so much for that. Well, we have the big FOMC meet outcome which is expected today. So markets definitely will react to that tomorrow. So we'll be watching out for that one. In terms of other macro data from the US, the initial jobless claims, that data will be out as well. There's the Bank of Japan meet that starts today, from tomorrow, 13 and 14 June. So those 2 days is when we'll be watching out for that one. There's the G7 summit, June 13 to 15 in Italy and in US as well. There's Tesla annual meeting of stockholders. So a lot of comments is something that we can expect from that particular meeting as well. Moving on in terms of stocks, a lot of dividend ex-dates, a long list actually. With Marksans Pharma, KSB Limited, Tata Technologies, there's a special dividend there as well. CI Automotive, ICICI Pru Life, Raymond, Shankara Building Products. So watch out for these stocks. You'll see that adjustment on the stock price tomorrow. There's Pitti Engineering where there will be an extraordinary general meeting. There's AGM for R Systems International and Indorama Synthetics. And Vodafone Idea will be mulling fundraising tomorrow. There's an additional preferential issue that they are mulling as well. And additionally, a lot of political news. So let's add one more. New BJP government in Arunachal is likely to assume charge tomorrow. So watch out for this one as well.
All right. Well, Sonal, thanks very much for that. So tomorrow morning, first things, we'll be watching what the Fed would have done tonight. And of course, some of the stuff which Sonal mentioned tomorrow as well. Thanks very much for that. Well, it's a wrap on this edition of Markets Forward. Thank you very much for staying with us. More coming up in terms of news and updates after a quick commercial break.
Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Ashmit Kumar and here are the headlines that we're tracking this evening. Sensex and Nifty cool off after hitting a record high in early trade. Mid-caps outperform the blue chips. US Federal Reserve is expected to hold interest rates steady later tonight. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman takes charge at the North Block. Pankaj Chaudhary takes charge as her deputy. In a briefing with officials after assuming charge, the FM said that the reforms undertaken since 2014 will continue, highlighted an optimistic economic outlook for the coming years. 3 frontrunners for the post of the next Federal Bank Managing Director and CEO. Sources say that the bank has submitted the names of former Kotak Mahindra Bank Deputy MD KVS Manian and 2 internal candidates to the RBI. Automobile industry asks the new government to reduce GST on two-wheelers powered by CNG and flex fuels. Sources say industry also seeks removal of 3% cess on two-wheelers above 350cc. That's an exclusive.
Nara Chandrababu Naidu ane nenu
TDP Supremo Chandrababu Naidu takes oath as Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister for the 4th time. Janasena Chief Pawan Kalyan is sworn in as the Deputy Chief Minister along with 23 other ministers. Prime Minister Modi, Home Minister Amit Shah and senior leaders of the NDA attend the swearing-in ceremony at Vijayawada. At least 41 people are dead after a fire broke out in a building that housed foreign workers in Kuwait City. Initial reports suggest some victims could also be Indians. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar says he's deeply shocked and promises full assistance by the Indian Embassy. Israel military says it is carrying out intelligence-based targeted operations in central Gaza and Rafah. Claims that a large rocket barrage was fired from Lebanon into Israel. Hamas seeks some amendments to the US ceasefire proposal. A United Nations inquiry accuses both Israel and Hamas of committing war crimes on and after the 7th of October. India will surpass the US as the country with the most software developers in 3 years, says GitHub's global CEO Thomas Domke. Expects generative AI will evolve into what Jarvis was for Iron Man. That's an exclusive. Students using AI chatbots to cheat in exams, beware. Coursera has a new tool to help universities verify your answers and catch plagiarism. The global CEO of Coursera explains how this works a little later on this show. Well, first up, let's begin with a quick look at the day's market action. The Lal Street scaled new peaks intraday, but ended off the highs. Nifty hit a record high of 23,443, but ended 120 points below that. Broader markets outperformed. The mid-cap index soared over 1% to hit new highs for the 3rd straight session. Prashant Nair is joining us now with more details. Prashant, give us some sense. Some consolidation is what we're seeing on after lifetime highs.
A good day all told, but there was that 3 p.m. sell-off which happened once again. I mean, the market did give up about 60-70 points from the day's high for the Nifty, but we did end higher. And I think after the kind of rally we've had, to be up day on day, I think is just good news. Bank Nifty has been underperforming, but that's largely because private banks have not been of any help. PSU banks, no such problem. It was one of the top gaining sectors. PSUs, broadly, not just banks, continue to charge ahead. Mid caps and small caps, unlike yesterday where they gave up gains in the last 30-40 minutes, today they were up 1%, 1.25% on those indices. Now, large cap stocks on the Nifty. So there was Coal India, Power Grid, the old economy names doing well. iShares, SBI Life and Tech Mahindra were some of the other stocks which participated. Mahindra and Mahindra cooled off a little bit today. Britannia and Tata Consumer. I mean, actually, FMCG was one of the few sectors, only, one of the 2 sectors which actually was even lower as a pocket. Now, in the broader market, advances far outnumbered declines. But the thing is today, and I'm going to put out names here, but so many names which we don't really talk about very often. small cap to micro cap companies buzzing, and some of these names really hearing them for the first time, which are not the names that I'm putting up here on this board. Elecon Engineering, Max Health had a big move today. Reliance Power, Gravita India, Suntech Realty, Dredging Corporation continues to move higher, 30% in 3-4 days. Kirloskar Brothers, Aptus, the home finance theme was up and about. PNB Housing has been doing well recently. Today it was LIC Housing there. Premier Explosive, and there was something like Arman Financial, which also did well. Pullbacks coming through in names like Zomato. There was Marico, Heritage Foods, pulled back a little bit. Imfa, which was a big mover yesterday. Pidilite, SW Solar, Viatech, Vabag. These are just pullbacks because stocks have run up quite a bit. And there was a Brigade Enterprises, which was down as well. Into the Fed meeting. And of course, we'll be reacting to that when we come back tomorrow.
Right, Prashant, thanks so much for that wrap. Now, all eyes are on the United States Federal Reserve, which is due to make its decision on key interest rates today. CNBC's Fed survey has found that investors expect the central bank to leave benchmark lending rates unchanged. However, a majority of respondents expect a rate cut in December, while 46% see the Fed cutting the rates in the month of September. Well, that's, of course, the big trigger. We'll keep an eye out for that. But meanwhile, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has assumed charge at the North Block today, while Pankaj Chaudhary has taken charge as her deputy. The Finance Minister told officials in a briefing that reforms undertaken since 2014 will continue. She also highlighted an optimistic economic outlook for the coming years. In a tweet on X, the Finance Ministry said that Sitharaman asserted that the government is committed to ensuring ease of living for citizens and will continue to take further steps in that direction. And sticking with ministers who retain their portfolios, senior BJP leader Nitin Gadkari took charge of the Road Transport and Highways Ministry. He has handled the portfolio since the Narendra Modi-led government came to power in 2014. This makes the 67-year-old Gadkari the longest-serving road transport and highways minister. Well, some action now from the automobile space. The automobile industry has requested the new government to reduce GST on CNG and flex fuel powered two-wheelers. Parikshit Luthra joining us now with more details. Parikshit, give us a sense, what is the auto industry seeking, particularly the two-wheeler space?
The Society of Indian Automobile Manufacturers has written to the Ministry of Heavy Industries requesting for a GST reduction from 28%, which is the base rate for all two-wheelers currently, to 18%, specifically for CNG and flex fuel two-wheelers. And when the base rate becomes 18%, to further reduce the GST on these kind of vehicles to 12%. This request has only been made for two-wheelers and specifically for CNG and flex fuel two-wheelers. There are companies in the auto industry such as the Hero MotoCorp, Bajaj Auto and even TVS, which have developed or are developing CNG and flex fuel vehicles which can run on higher blends of ethanol going up to E85. SIAM has also requested for a removal of 3% cess on all two-wheelers above 350cc. The reason why the industry body is urging the government to consider this request because they feel that these low carbon vehicles are good in terms of meeting our environment goals. They will also increase the overall two-wheeler penetration in the economy, increase productivity, considering that two-wheelers are used for e-commerce and quick commerce specifically. But if the tax rate remains 28%, then the cost of acquisition of CNG and flex fuel vehicles will remain high because the vehicle efficiency, fuel efficiency of these vehicles goes down. And there is also a lot which has been invested by the companies in developing these vehicles. So you need to offset that investment as well. They have also argued that the tax rate in India, which is 28%, coupled with a road tax and also an insurance premium and 3% cess for vehicles above 350cc is a lot of tax burden on a consumer, and this is much higher than economies like Thailand and Indonesia, which have a 7% to 11% tax rate respectively. So we need to bring the taxes down on CNG and flex fuel two-wheelers so that they are adopted more and bought more by consumers in the days to come. Now, this is a move that the Ministry of Heavy Industries can consider. They can make a proposal to the Ministry of Finance, but finally, this is an issue that will have to be taken up by the GST Council and decided by it.
Right, Parikshit. So a request there from the auto space, the two-wheeler space to the new government. Here's a CNBC TV 18 exclusive. Sources tell CNBC TV 18 that Federal Bank has sent names of 3 candidates for the MD and CEO post for the RBI. The bank gained nearly 4% to hit a 52-week high in trade today. Abhishek Kothari joining us now with more details. Abhishek, give us a sense who are the front contenders for this position.
Well, sources do tell CNBC TV 18 that Federal Bank has sent names of the shortlisted candidates for the post of MD and CEO. So these names, as per my sources, were sent about 10 to 15 days back.